Business is dynamic and it changes all the time, and we've got to almost constantly reinvent ourselves based on where the business is at and where the customers are at.
It's not about making sure that you care for the customer, it's making sure that the customer feels cared for. So that's a very different way of thinking about it, because you're still not making it about you.
And you want to be able to enhance your customer experience with every interaction. Every interaction is a moment of truth. We have an opportunity to either win your customer over or win them further, if you like, if they're an existing customer, or you could potentially lose that customer and that interaction if you don't handle it well.
In terms of getting customer feedback, doing it well, how is it we go about doing that, and what feedback should we be focusing on? Because it's also very easy to ask the wrong questions.
We always see complaints as the best source of business intelligence about what's not working with your business.
Hello and welcome back to the Founder Files. Today, I've got an entrepreneur that's been around for 27 years, has listed his company, delisted his company, now looking at IPOing again, and is taking this journey from being a founder of a single business unit business to now having an entire group of companies that he is the CEO of, and he has CEOs reporting into him. So this is a fascinating story and journey of going through an entrepreneur's life cycle from beginning to really mature company. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to Yaron Assabi, who is the founder and CEO of Digital Solutions Group. Now, Digital Solutions Group originally started off with the e-commerce and .com boom being pretty much the first e-commerce player in South Africa, and has really evolved through customer experience, marketing, and many other businesses in between, of really servicing a lot of retailers in terms of their customer interface. So he shares a lot of the stories on that, but then we get a lot deeper in terms of his insights on customer experience, and how is it that he thinks about how we improve customer experience, how we get customer feedback, handle customer complaints, and how is it that we can be data-driven businesses that give an entire single source of the truth that anyone in the company can manage a customer relationship with. We also talk about his personal journey, because he is a cancer survivor that went under no chemotherapy whatsoever and managed this through his own health and shift in lifestyle. Right, it's already a fascinating story there, but also the impact that had on him as a leader and as an entrepreneur, and how he thinks about his business, his culture, and himself. And finally, like always, we get into what the future looks like for him, why it's so bright, and why things are so exciting. So if you are not currently following the Founder Files, and you are excited about stories like this, where we don't just talk about what it takes to scale, but the different evolutions that a business and entrepreneur goes through, and we get into also the personal stories as well. And if you're not following, you want to make sure that you're doing so now. Otherwise, you're going to miss amazing content like this from amazing entrepreneurs like Yaron. It's also the best way to support the podcast and the best way to make me feel happy. So make sure to like, follow, subscribe now. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Yaron Assabi. Welcome to the Founder Files, the podcast that's like eavesdropping on a conversation with a successful entrepreneur over a fireside chat. Join me, Cameron Coots, through this unique experience of unfiltered stories and insights from scaling founders around the globe as they share their ups, downs, and everything in between. Yaron, welcome to the Founder Files. I can't wait to get into your introduction, because as someone who's the founder of so many businesses and a group of companies, it's quite a challenge for me to explain it in a short sentence. So I'm going to hospital pass that to you. Welcome to the podcast. I can't wait to get into your story.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to share my story with you and the audience.
So just to kick it off, for those that don't know Digital Solutions Group, do you want to just give a quick introduction around who you are as an entrepreneur and a founder?
Yeah, so I started digitalmall.com, which was the first company within the group today, in 1998 in September. And it was in the early days of e-commerce. There wasn't a lot of activity in e-commerce in South Africa. I bought a book from Amazon.com. I thought it was a great experience. It was just published. I got it a couple of weeks later. And I felt that e-commerce is really going to grow, and that Africa specifically has immense potential, and decided to start with digitalmall.com. It was the first e-commerce enabler in South Africa. We decided not to follow the Amazon model, which is more of a pure play internet. We decided to work with big retailers who need to adopt new technologies to be able to get closer to their customers and understand them better, and be able to personalize the service that they're offering. The internet is a formidable tool to be able to do that, and therefore set up an online shopping mall where a lot of the retailers could share the traffic, because there was very little internet traffic at the time. I think there were maybe 50,000 people on the internet in the late 90s. When we started, we actually just moved off the BBS. My friend Granier Apteker and Anon Apteker and David all started internet solutions at the time. It was like the beginning of the internet in South Africa, and we were all excited about it. So we felt that an online shopping mall would be a better format so retailers can share the internet traffic, because there wasn't a lot of it. And at the same time, you spend money on online marketing a single destination, which made a lot of sense. But each retailer had their own e-commerce solution, just like they would have their own shop sitting in a shopping mall. And it was a great concept. We did quite well. We won a lot of the big retailers. Obviously, the IT retailer was the first one to come on board, Incredible Connection. We built one of the first early e-commerce sites, and it made a lot of sense because a lot of their customers were getting online and were online, so it made sense to work with them. But we also worked with Reggie's and Toys R Us, Steakinico, a lot of furniture retailers like Furniture City. So, as e-commerce was kind of expanding, we were assisting retailers to adopt this new channel of communicating with their customers and do it effectively without having to build all the resources in-house, which there weren't any because it was just the beginning of something new, and it was really, really exciting. And then in the early days of the business, within about 14 months after we built a number of e-commerce stores, we were approached by a company called iTouch. So iTouch wanted to get into mobile commerce. They were a mobile content company. They were owned by Independent News and Media, which was the star newspaper in South Africa at the time, and a lot of different media channels. And they were delivering a lot of the content via mobile, but wanted to get into mobile commerce because it was the early days of the internet on the mobile device. It was called WAP. I don't know if you remember WAP, Wireless Application Protocol. It was the phones were still black and white. It was 9.6 kilobits per second. On your WAP gateway, and your modem was 56K, so a modem was 5 times faster than the internet on the mobile, where today, as it's completely the opposite, right? You have much faster internet on mobile often than with fixed lines. But it was the early days of the mobile internet, and that they wanted to buy into us to get into mobile commerce. So we were acquired in order to build a mobile commerce platform. And we built the first mobile commerce platform that Vodacom in South Africa used in March 2000 to launch on myweb.digitalmall.com. They launched the first mobile commerce transaction in South Africa. And then after that, through the relationship with Vodafone, we launched in the UK and Ireland and Australia and New Zealand. Wherever Independent News and Media had media interests, iTouch would have offices and offer mobile internet and mobile content. And then digitalmall.com, the company that we started, would offer the mobile commerce solution. And we could literally set up a wireless and commerce store within 20 minutes with the software that we wrote. But it was black and white, and it was slow, and it was the worldwide wait. But I think today, mobile commerce is something that we do every single day, and it's part of everyday life. And we had the vision that in 2000, this is going to be growing every single year, and it's going to be really exciting. And we stuck to that strategy, and we enabled that strategy for multiple retailers around the world.
And so that's the starting journey. But I mean, throughout that, there's this constant golden thread of focusing on customer experience, not only for yourself, but also for your partners. And that's always through commerce that is now in this new era of connectivity. So you mentioned obviously mobile, we've got e-commerce to the internet, and this has been the golden thread of really what Digital Solutions Group has become. And I can't wait to get into some of those examples, but just to give some context now, Rob, where's the business at now? Like how would you describe the identity of the company and what level of scale that you're at?
So Digital Mall does no longer describes what we're doing, because when the market crashed, the famous.com crash happened, we needed to reinvent ourselves because the focus was no longer about .com, and we had some great assets. We had a great customer experience business that you spoke about, and in fact, some of our customers felt that we were too early with e-commerce, and they really liked the contact center, and people would still browse over the internet and then buy over the phone, which was quite interesting. So, and what was hilarious is, imagine this customer's phoning in to place an order of something they've seen on the internet. The contact center agent is sitting on the same website that they actually just looked at, processing the order on their behalf over the phone because they didn't trust giving their credit card details over the internet, So
I don't trust the computer, I trust the person.
Exactly. And today it's the other way around. When we have a credit card transaction, we transfer the call to an IVR rather than a human being, so you don't have to give your credit card details to somebody over the phone. And we trust that the technology is encrypted, and that SSL works, and secure socket layer, and all of these kind of things. So I think that the mindsets of consumers have changed over the years. But really what we did as a business initially was to enable retailers to be able to transact online and to be able to deal with something that was new and complex. But if you look at the theme with DSG, is that we are an enabler for brands to be able to capitalize on technology, to get closer to their customers, get to know their customers better, and then personalize the service for them and grow water chain lifetime value with customers. And this is still the underlying theme of what DSG does today. And we've actually taken all the different components of customer experience, the internet and digital customer experience being very important these days, and more interactions are moving to chat and to digital, but we still offer the traditional phone and, email support and chat, and different applications for different businesses require different types of support. So if it's technical support, I might want to be able to do a collaborative session with you and actually take over your mobile phone and show you things on your mobile that are not working, or on your Mac or whatever. And we offer that from an IT support perspective often, but we also offer high engagement, like responding to your Twitter within 20 minutes, and in the company tone, responding on something that's very relevant that you maybe have voiced an opinion on, and having an emotive conversation with you around that. Those are very different interactions, but we kind of manage all of them because they're all very important for customer experience. And you want to be able to enhance your customer experience with every interaction. Every interaction is a moment of truth. We have an opportunity to either win your customer over or win them further, if you like, if they're an existing customer, or you could potentially lose that customer and that interaction if you don't handle it well. So it's really important that, the underlying theme for Digital Solutions Group is the ability that we deliver customer experience, but we do it in many different ways, which I'll get into
100%.
further in the conversation.
Yeah. So no, I love the customer obsession that's naturally into that, because I really want to get into the topic now and talk about how important customer experience just is as a principle in business, but like also get some practical insights. But before doing so, I just still want to get that answer to the question of what scale are you at now?
Okay, so we over 1,000 people. We actually have 1,200 at the moment, and going to 1,500 by June. It's very contract orientated. So as we win more customers, we have to deploy for these contracts. So that's why I'm sharing with you that we currently at around the 1,200, but changing very quickly. We won part of the contract for an existing client where we're expanding the contract, and we're employing 250 people now to service that. And one of our other clients is expanding. So, and we look after some of the biggest brands in South Africa when it comes to their customer experience. So we're very proud of our relationship with Nando's, for example, because we actually approached Nando's to sell chicken on the internet to begin with, a digital mall, and they didn't feel, which is quite interesting to talk about it today, they didn't feel that their chicken will travel very well and will taste nice when it arrives. But they saw a contact center and they said, listen, we see a lot of people are placing orders over the phone. Why don't you do our customer care? Because we're kind of growing as a brand. And that was 25 years ago. We started with a shared seat or a quarter chicken, if you like, in our contact center. And today we have over 200 people just dedicated to Nando's, looking at different functions within Nando's, and not just in South Africa, for the whole of Africa, Middle East, and we just run Australia and New Zealand as well. So we're working with different support services with different Nando's organizations around the world. And as you know, they're one of the most global brands out of South Africa, and a great brand to work with. And we're very proud of that relationship over the last 25 years of growing from like a quarter chicken to 200 chickens in 25 years, and doing lots of different functions for Nando's, ordering, customer care, social, maybe franchise inquiries, HR, really being an integral part of their business.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge that you've gotten that level of trust, especially with a brand like Nando's that's got very unique and intentional brand, and therefore a very intentional customer experience, which means that you to have that level of trust that you can do it so well just goes to show the level of importance, but also how good you are at customer experience. So I've got nothing better except for an abstract question around just like what are the lessons that you would share with a founder that's between, let's say, the 20 to 150 person mark in terms of business, and maintaining a really solid customer experience, or really enhancing it?
Yeah, I think what we're all scared of as founders is being able to maintain consistency as we grow. Because growing sounds great on paper, but if you can't maintain the same level of intimacy that you have with your customers, the same level of support that they chose you for, then it's going to be a problem. So, we always spend a lot of time looking at how we can support what we are looking to execute for the customer. So we have a saying at DSG that you're only as good as your last performance. The fact that you did really well 10 years ago is irrelevant to the way you do business today, because there's quicker competitors, there's people that have started maybe a bit later than you, but have now paid less school fees and are more nimble and more agile, and always try and imagine that somebody's coming to eat your lunch. You've got to be aware of the fact that, especially when you're innovating and you're in technology, if you're going to do something today, a lot of competitors are going to try and copy you and are going to do things that are similar. So you've got to constantly reinvent yourself based on customer feedback, what's going on in the market. And I think that when it comes to the reason we put so much emphasis on customer experience is because the businesses that do the best are the ones that look after their customers. Where customers really love the brand, and even during difficult times, you'll find that those brands manage to succeed and get through those difficult times, even if there's a recession in the economy, because they run such a solid business. So if you want to focus on something in your business, always focus on the customer. Always ensure that you are customer-centric, you're listening to your customers, and you're reinventing your business based on what's happening in the market, where customers have moved on to. So I'll give you an example. We have an MVNE business that's the sign behind me, and we were one of the first mobile virtual network enablers in South Africa. And we had the privilege of working with First National Bank. We didn't get to enable them, but we, at the beginning, did some consulting there, F&B Connect, and all of the thinking behind it, because it was the beginning of MVNOs in South Africa. And we've seen the success of F&B Connect has been incredible. It's just been an amazing project, and to be able to get involved in a business, understand the potential of what it's going to do for your core business, and be able to launch a sub-brand, if you like, within your environment that will add so much value to your core business is an incredible opportunity, and it's complex and it's difficult. And I guess that you asked me about scaling DSG. We saw a lot of gaps in the market over the years, like with MVNOs and MVNE in 2013, that allowed us to enter a whole new industry, but really very similar to digital mall, where we started there and we were making it easy, lowering the barrier to entry for customers to launch online stores. We also made it very easy for customers who wanted to launch MVNOs, because we understood from a technology perspective and from understanding of the industry what it actually takes to do it. So look at us as like the brand behind the brand, the guys that enable you to achieve a lot of digital ambitions that you have, or being able to be really good with how you interact digitally with your customer, but without you having to invest in resources or in the technology yourself. You can simply partner with DSG to do a lot of these kind of things. So the theme of the business has stayed the same, but as new opportunities, as the telco market opened itself, we decided to launch an MVNE. Later, we decided to launch a cybersecurity business, because we felt that a lot of the cybersecurity skills were actually leaving South Africa, and that we need to reinvest in skills in South Africa. Otherwise, we're going to be found in a very difficult space where we just don't have enough talent to look after our security operations center and things like that. So we have to invest in talent, and we did that later. So, we've kind of constantly looked at where the market is at, and how do we adapt ourselves to where customers are at and what the market is at. And I think that's been my advice to founders would be to constantly don't get comfortable in a particular situation. It's like you've got to constantly have a look at how you can compete with who you were yesterday and how you can do better all the time. And that way, you separate yourself from your competitors, because they might be competing with the old version of you, but you're already with a new version, and you've already kind of moved on, So there's been a lot of, over the years with the different businesses, because they've all been about innovation. A lot of companies that came in after us tried to copy what we're doing, but by the time they were already there, we were already, a few steps ahead. And I think that's the way you keep up especially in a very competitive technology market where, I think there's tons of competition and a longer adoption curve of the technology as well. So it's quite dangerous that you spend too much time pioneering at the beginning and spending a lot of money and then not being able to recover it enough. And a competitor could just slide past you and spend less money and get there quicker because you've done all the education in the market. So I think it's quite important to be able to pay attention to that because pioneers often return with arrows in their back, and you've got to be able to pull out the arrows, learn from them, and very quickly move forward and reinvent your business. And I think it makes a very, very solid foundation when you paid some school fees, when you fail fast, when you actually make mistakes quite quickly, and you're able to absorb those mistakes, learn from them very quickly, and move on and create a better version. Yeah.
So the first principle that I'm getting from what you're saying is underneath all of this is principally you're not your customer, right? And so if you really maintain that as a mindset and it's around understanding them, means that they're constantly dealing with people that are evolving. Because going back to the example of trust in terms of a digital interface with a human being versus putting my card details through on the internet, is like that changes over time. And yes, there's obviously competitors, the market changes, but just the customers change as their level of trust and their needs and their situation changes as well. So I think that first principle of really, you are not your customer. And the reason why we have a business in the first place is because we have a customer. So let's just make it about them and be kind of really attentive all the time to them, their lives, how they're doing things. And I think where I want to transition this into your thinking about how you go about doing this. I'm sure you're even at the point where it's like, you don't even know what you know. You've forgotten so much that people are still really learning about entrepreneurship and customer experience. But if I had to bring you into, you've got a new client, right, that you're working with. Where do you start with? What's the thinking process you would go through until you're at the level of confidence that it's like, I'm happy to take on your customer experience. I've got this. What's the process of thinking you go through to really nail that down?
You really got to understand their business and you got to understand their customers. So you got to firstly understand how they capture customer details, how they deal with complaints, how they deal with compliments, how they deal with everything. So in order to be able to engage with a customer, we build these relationship agreements with the various departments and the client's organization. So before marketing goes out with an ad, we got to see it because we actually work for the business and we are the ones who are going to be talking to a customer. So imagine a customer phones into your contact center and says, listen, the latest ad is really disgusting and I'm very put off, and this is my opinion, and we don't know what this advert looked like or the fact that it was even flattered, that we're trying to deal with the customer experience in that way, that would be a problem. So you got to almost, in order to become an extension of your client's business, you've got to constantly make sure that if new things are happening, you're aware of them and that the training is ongoing and that we constantly reinvent business processes based on where things have moved or things that have changed, So you got to build some agility into your organization that if you're dealing with a complaint that you've never had before, it's going to take longer to be able to deal with that. But then you build the key learning to ensure that next time you deal with the same complaint, it's been, you don't have to go through the heavy learning and the heavy lifting because you've already done all of that. And it's in a knowledge base available to the next contact center person or the next person in the company that deals with the customer, that they've got access to that knowledge and they know how to resolve it. Because business is dynamic and it changes all the time. And we've got to almost, as I said earlier, constantly reinvent ourselves based on where the business is at and where the customers are at. So there's many different ways of helping customers become better in their customer experience. The best way to do it is actually evaluate the processes of the business and what's working and what's not working, and building some agility around reinventing your customer journey and your customer process, and listening to customers, as we spoke about earlier. That's very important. Once you hear it directly from the customer, you can look at what wasn't working, analyze it, fix it, and make sure that the next customer doesn't go through the same issue that this particular customer, because things will go wrong, but we're not perfect. We never design perfect processes. But the secret is about building these agility that maybe we didn't think about something and it's come up, to reinvent ourselves and make sure that it doesn't cause stress or discomfort to another customer, and because we dealt with it.
Yeah. I think where I'm coming from with the questions, I want to keep diving into this, is because I acknowledge when you're dealing with a corporate and that level of scale is a completely different animal in terms of how you create a consistent customer experience, because there really are, you're at the level of policies, procedures, processes, FAQs, those are there. I think when you're a growing and scaling business, those are being established, and it's this challenge of a lot of the intuition of a founder is still being relied on at this point, because they were at the coalface realizing what didn't work, what aggravated customers, until they figure out what did work. And then they're in the stage of downloading what does work. There's all these people that are now in the customer interface that didn't get the learning of what didn't work. That it's kind of, you're in this point of this scaling challenge of maintaining this consistent customer experience. So what I'm looking for is from how it is that you think and what it is that your business does. I'm trying to find what are some lessons in terms of practically, if I'm an entrepreneur, dealing with an issue of customer experience, customer quality, because it happens. You grow too quickly, you struggle to keep up with demand, you're firefighting, it's normal, right? But it's still stressful. No one likes to be in that situation, but we want to fix it. So how would I go about really thinking about my customer experience, ensuring its consistency, but baking this into my operations, my processes, systems? How do I train my people? Where do I start? It can feel, overwhelming, because it really is at this point very intuitive for me, and I realize it's not that way for other people.
So the first thing is make it easy for customers to give you feedback. Okay, a lot of the new e-commerce businesses at the beginning that weren't advertising contact centers, it was all about deflecting calls into self-help and chatbots or whatever the case may be. I think you need to find a balance between those things. I mean, if you can automate non-revenue generating calls via chatbot, AI agent, IVR, all of these different services, direct people to your website, that's great. But at the end of the day, conversations are really, really important, key learning areas for you on how to improve your service. Still keep an open conversation with clients and allow them to choose in which way they actually communicate with you rather than dictating. So let me give an idea with this F&B Connect. I think they were the first MVNO in banking, and because of that, they acquired a lot of new customers to the bank, because it made a lot of sense that the value proposition, that the design that combined their core banking service and mobile together was a very powerful value proposition when they went to market. And therefore, a lot of the customers that they were actually attracting through F&B Connect, which was the MVNO that they launched, were not F&B customers, which is kind of an interesting way of actually winning customers over just before you're offering an easier way to do business with me, via mobile and things like that. And I think that very soon thereafter, a lot of the other banks reacted and launched MVNOs because they felt that they're missing out on this opportunity to get closer to their customers, understand them better, and connect with them on mobile, which also allows them to understand more about their behavior and make their relationship more secure. So for example, if you're at an ATM and you are also a mobile customer, we know that your mobile phone is also there. We could send you a little message if the phone is not by the ATM and so your card's being used, is that you, are you sure, etc. So there's a lot of kind of integral CX opportunities when you're doing it well and you go quite deep and you get better customer insights on how you use it. And I think that kind of competitive advantage will often yield some amazing business results over time. To have over 1 million MVNO customers today for F&B Connect, it's quite a big business. It's a multi-billion rand business a year, and it was easy to just add mobile onto banking. But the way that they've done it, I think the execution was quite good, and the way they integrated it into their core business and the way they've gone about it. One of my other customers, DSTV, is launched an MVNO called DSTV Internet, and it's one of the biggest MVNOs in South Africa from a data perspective, because they're bundling streaming and the cost of data together and making it very affordable for you to be able to watch. So the average customer for DSTV Internet is almost 200x what a normal mobile customer would be on a mobile network operator because of the streaming, because of the application that they're using. And if you can make that data more affordable for them, it makes them a loyal customer for your content. And that is that kind of thinking is you're going to need to use data to stream. If we can make the data more affordable for you by making it available through our MVNO, through DSTV Internet, then we're going to retain you longer as a customer, and we're going to make the overall value proposition, the service offering, a lot more cost effective, because you're actually spending more money on mobile data than you are on the actual streaming service. And this is the kind of differentiator that you can launch. And today, DSTV Internet does more than 8% of the data on MTN's network. So it's a very big contributor to the data utilization, and a very big ISP, internet service provider, so they've got over 200,000 customers. So it's a very, very big opportunity. And I think that is the space that DSG likes to play, is helping companies that we work with disrupt, using new technology to reinvent your business and get closer to your customer, and then drive more wallet share enhancement by introducing something that will help your core business, maybe through mobile and things like that, but will help you differentiate from your competitors and create a defensive mechanism, as well as a customer acquisition strategy that's very unique.
Yeah. So I like to think in principles because they're very they're not context specific, right? They can be translated across the board. And the first one I got with that I'd again like to loop things together as I talk. The first one is really about the you're not your customer, right? And your customer is the reason why you have a business. Like that just mindset as well maintains that consistent curiosity. But I think also a huge reason that why your business is so successful is that it's got nothing to. This is no judgment on anyone, any business leader, any founder. But the point of it is your existing customers are simply not as exciting as your new customers. Right. And this isn't in terms of even just new sales within your core market, that this is more often than not new markets altogether, because you're looking at these innovation players, you're looking at new geographies, you're looking at new products. And so inadvertently, it's the eye off the ball. But the having you as an external service provider come in, is this immense curiosity going into how are these people operating, and the point that you raised with regard to DSTV with F&B as well, is that it's around how is it that we can enhance the value that we are already providing to these customers through either the collaboration that we have or the capabilities that you already have in your organization, right? So there's so much value that can still be added to these customers that can improve retention. And that's, acquisition is one thing, but if you're not retaining the customers, then you've got a problem, right? But so if we can enhance retention, enhance experience, it's simply coming from the fact that what is it that we have that we can give more value to these customers, so that's going to make them more excited about being here. And I think the nature of customer experience, and I also acknowledge the question that I'm asking, because it's a very it's an abstract thing, but it depends and it's qualitative, right? So it's a really tricky thing to standardize even within one company. And so just with those principles of what customer centricity looks like, is that point around your business exists because of them. But then how is it that we can enhance the value that we have to our existing customers? Yeah. And the external perspective is often very useful for that.
Absolutely. And I think there's a big, when it comes to customer experience, it's the way we interact with the customer and being able to interact with them at the right time. So, sales, marketing, and service actually work very closely together, because if I've got a complaint outstanding with a business and I get a phone call trying to sell something to me, the likelihood is I'm going to say no, because I was please basically resolve my problem before you try and sell something to me. But what's amazing is when I actually resolve the complaint, it's the best time to sell something to you, because I've now built a great relationship of trust. I've now delivered, and we actually convert a big number of customers at the end of the complaint resolution process. We actually convert them to a sale. Okay, if they had internet issues, so for example on DSTV, they're phoning, they're chatting, they had a problem like an E32 error on their decoder, and we chatting to them. We said, did you restart the decoder? And we fixed it. It could have been the internet at home, and they say, yeah, no, it is my internet. Actually, let me restart the modem. Oh no, that worked. And then we say, okay, that's great. It's wonderful. So is the error complete now? And they say, yes. I say, do you know that DSTV also offers internet? And we have amazing packages, at the end of the call. And then the person says, yeah, no, tell me more about it. And it's such a great deal. You get 400 gigs of data and a router and DSTV Premium for 999, and DSTV Premium alone is 999. So you're getting like the router and the 400 gigs free, basically. Most people go for it. So we have maybe out of inbound complaints, quite a high ratio of customers that have actually converted into a sale, which is the most profitable way of doing things, because a complaint is always the cost to serve, where if you can convert it into a sale, all of a sudden the cost to serve, it's not just about the cost to serve, you enhance the customer's life, in the call by resolving the complaint and getting them involved in a new product. So, I think there's a lot of psychology around how you do certain things. And I think that as a group, we're very unique because our CX business, which is called Customer Experience Group, CXG within DSG, works very closely with another business in our group called Broad Brand, which as opposed to Broadband. So Broad Brand is all about marketing and digital marketing and marketing as a service. And we do work for Coca-Cola and for Target brands and for a lot of different companies, Spark Schools, around their marketing strategy and using AI and machine learning and digital tools to help you become more effective with your data and how you target your customers and how you convert them on Meta and on Google and on all the different kind of media that you're buying, or even in your own media, and how to communicate better. And at the end of the day, if you're doing your complaint management or customer care properly and customer experience well, it should be a lever for you to do better with your marketing and your sales. And when you tie it all together, sales, marketing, and service, and you understand that they're not separate divisions, within your business, and you're looking at the customer holistically, I think you can build better strategies to win customers over and make a lot of money quick, because you are getting your customer more entrenched in a relationship that they already enjoy, and you're just adding more value to that relationship.
100%. And you've given me an insight that, albeit is half-baked, but I'm going to externalize it now, is the reason why we have customers in the first place is not, it's obviously we're adding value, but we're also solving and addressing a pain point. And I think as founders, right, especially as like we know how hard it was getting those customers in the first place, specifically in the early 0 to 1 days, that customer attention, customer complaints, and customer service is so critical and important to us. But I think for me, what stood out for you is that, well, yes, obviously, solve the complaints and give them a good experience. But let's take a step back and look at this: is that what you're getting is free data on what their pain points are. And so the point, and from a sales perspective, it's like you get to continuously evolve what they're on. It's yes, you might there could just be fundamental issues in your operations and in your service that actually need to be addressed. But it could be by the way, that pain point I've helped you troubleshoot and fix now. We've got that product that actually solves it as well, right?
Exactly.
Or now that you've solved this pain point, hey, there's this adjacent need or pain point, this thing that's closely associated with that. Are you struggling with that too? Because because the point of when someone is, and now I can speak as a psychologist, but just in the emotional family and category of anger, the evolutionary reason why it exists is to initiate action, to make us do something. The reason why whenever we're angry, we're pissed off, we're frustrated, we're irritated, it's the energy motivating us to do something. And so you get someone where instead of taking it personally or worry or reflection of the business, take it as an opportunity to solve it. But you have this person in a state that's ready to now take action. And if you say, okay, well, we can solve this pain point, here's this alternative value proposition, you can really close on that. I love that, because I never would have thought of a complaint as an opportunity to sell. It's a situation that you need to protect, and I never thought about it as both. I'd like to pause here for a moment to talk about why it is that we run the Founder Files in the first place, why we've done over 100 episodes, and why we have no intention of stopping anytime soon, and how it is that we go about actually funding this so consistently. And to start off with, the purpose of the Founder Files is to give established entrepreneurs practical stories and insights from people that have been there before, so you can avoid years of trial and error in scaling your own business. And the reason why this is so important to us is it relates very directly to what the purpose of Metavolve is, which is the entity that funds the Founder Files in the first place. And that is to accelerate the time it takes for entrepreneurs to build businesses that are able to thrive without them. Practically, what that looks like is our mission statement: to ensure that as many founders as possible can take a holiday where they actually switch off whilst their business keeps growing. And the reason why this mission is so important to us is because, as many entrepreneurs, we built these businesses to potentially work less, right? Have a sense of freedom. But we found ourselves working harder than ever. And we thought when we conquered these original problems around survivability and getting to product market fit, we then achieved growth. And then the nature of the problems that we have now fundamentally changed. And we found ourselves working harder than ever, right? We're working longer hours, we're making harder decisions, people are coming to us, we're having to put out fires, and it can feel so intense, and we're constantly getting pulled back into operations because of the fundamental reason that no one knows our business like we do. And this is where Metavolve comes in. We use strategy as the process to really download all of your knowledge, all your thinking about your business, about your market, about your product into your management team so that they can be empowered to execute while you focus on growth or frankly doing what it is that you want with your time. So if you want to hear more about what Metavolve does and how Metavolve can help you attain a new level of freedom in your scale up, then click on the link in the description below and let's have a chat and a curiosity call to see how I can share some of the insights I've learned from working with and interviewing over 200 business owners in the past 3 and a bit years. But that's it from me for now. Let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, so we always see complaints as the best source of business intelligence about what's not working with your business. So it's like
Completely.
this is where we got to start to fix stuff, and that's why for us, customer experience is in the forefront of everything that we do. You've got to get that right. It's the hygiene factor of actually succeeding in business today, is that you got to get your customer experience right. If you can then use your data and personalize the experience and create data-driven marketing campaigns that will give you better performance because you are more targeted, then you really are achieving what you were meant to do with the data that you've initially received and helping your business grow smartly. By just listening to your customers, understanding them better, and personalizing the service that you're going to offer them and getting them more involved in your business by, caring about your business, So if you really show that you care about customers, they'll give you care back, But if you don't, if you're just going to send them a random email on their birthday, wishing them happy birthday, they're going to think, hey, I did that. But if you're really going to listen to them about something that, has happened in the past, and now they've redeemed the voucher that you've given them, for example, and you give them a call 2 weeks after they redeemed the voucher, or maybe a couple of days, because you don't want to seem like Big Brother, but you get the feedback from the point of sale that the voucher was redeemed, and you actually say, hi, Cameron, I just wanted to find out, was your experience actually better? Did we fulfill your service when you redeemed the voucher? So they don't think that we just give them a voucher to kind of like buy their loyalty, so they come back. It's more like we really care, like we've given you the voucher and we hope the service issue that you complained about was resolved and the waiting time wasn't that long, or the quality of the product that you've not tasted because we gave you a voucher for their product has really been the same quality that you used to, and that experience was better. So by showing that we're closing the loop and actually phoning you after the second time without you being proactive and phoning us, shows that we really care. I think brands that really care about their customers, care about the environment, care about, those are the brands that really succeed, and we work with amazing customers that we learn a fortune from all the time about what makes them unique and how why they are going to grow, how they're going to grow the market share. And if you can put all the right tools around that from a technology perspective, around customer experience, about understanding the customer behavior, about designing unique marketing campaigns that will then allow you to grow wallet share and lifetime value of customers, I think that's when you can drive a smart business. And my advice to entrepreneurs is that get as much data about your business as you can and use the data. Become a data-driven enterprise. Especially with machine learning and artificial intelligence now, and there's just so many tools that are so affordable where you can get more information about your business. What makes me able to manage so many different businesses within the group is because I'm working with entrepreneurs who are running the business and supporting them, point number one. But point number two is that we both working with data about the business and what's working and what's not working, and managing the exceptions and the issues that come out through the data. And I think in this day and age, you've got to be data-driven in your business. The data is available, a lot more available than it was many years ago. And over the years, I found that my emphasis on data, like I started many years ago with having a dedicated business intelligence unit within DSG, which one of the top executives today in the group used to run for me. And then we evolved it over the years, trying to automate as much as possible to understand our customers better, to understand what's happening in their business better, to be able to highlight to them that they're getting a lot of complaints about a particular area that they need to improve. So we don't just deal with the complaint, we actually do something about it and resolve it, which I think was one of the pearls that you and I picked on in our discussion.
Yeah. No, 100%. I'd even take that one step further, and it's not about making sure that you care for the customer. It's making sure that the customer feels cared for, right? And I think that's a very different way of thinking about it, because you're still not making it about you. So Yaron, I want to tie the loop on this topic, because there's still so much else for us to discuss. But I think the point there is, again, you're linking to data, talking about customer feedback, like surveys, questionnaires, phone calls, like the NPS, everything like that. Is like there's all these things that have existed, but that, like, ironically still don't give a good customer experience. Like I can't stand it when I go have a service, literally a car service, and get phoned and we ask for a rating. It's like it leaves me feeling frustrated, because there's other ways to get this feedback. So in terms of getting customer feedback, doing it well, right? How is it we go about doing that, and what feedback should we be focusing on? Because it's also very easy to ask the wrong questions.
Yeah, so I think you raised a very important point, which is Seth Godin wrote an amazing book that I gave to all of my clients in the early days of DSG in 2000s called Permission Marketing. And it's a great book and still very relevant today. And it's all about, you don't want to over-communicate with customers and ask them too many things, because they're going to eventually opt out of the relationship because they don't want to be over-communicated. And that's what's happening with most people, because the inbox, be it WhatsApp, email, SMS, voice notes, whatever it is, it's just too much, So they often overwhelmed with the amount of communication. So you always got to incentivize the behavior and make it based on permission. And you've got to be very subtle in the way you communicate with the customer these days, so you don't upset them. So if you're going to ask me for feedback, but you're going to ask me to fill in 10 pages of information, I'm going to drop out because I'm too busy, right? But
I'm
if it's
going to
going to
drop
be
out the
quick,
call. I'm probably going to drop out as a customer.
Exactly. But if you're going to be quick and you're going to give me a reward, you say, like, anybody who answers these 3 quick questions, about how well we did with this customer experience, and you'll ask me, how was the quality of the food? What was the service? Maybe one more question. I can go tick, 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 multiple choice, put my email address and enter. That I'll probably do, especially if it's incentivized and a winner gets a trip to Mauritius or whatever the case may be. Then people will do it because they've got a reason to do it. The worst customers are the ones who don't complain and just never come back. Okay, you don't even know about those customers, and they deflect, and you just never get the opportunity to speak to them. So you got to really value this attention that you get from your customer and do it in a very subtle way. So firstly, POPI, California Act, GDPR, you've got to be able to get customers to opt in, okay? And one of our businesses is actually called optional.me, and our powerful line is, it's always about me and it's always optional, okay? Because people, that's the way they feel. Like, don't bombard me with all your emails all the time. I never gave you permission to send me so many emails. I just subscribed to your newsletter. I didn't realize that your newsletter is twice a day. If you one of these Chinese e-commerce giants, that think that they can just, the moment you opt in to one communication, you're just going to get bombarded with messages. That's not a way to market to me. That's a way to actually get me to switch off. Okay. And you lose my level of permission. I'm reducing the level of permission. I'm no longer giving you permission to communicate with me because you've overdone it now. And you got to be careful about that. What you got to do is you got to make sure that the information you communicate is relevant to your customer. So don't, if you're a food retailer, I'm vegan, don't try and sell me beef. Like, get to know that I'm vegan, ask me up front or whatever the case may be, because if you're going to send me messages that are not going to be interesting for me or about the behavior that I've had with you, then I'm going to opt out. So the secret is, how do I get you to opt in? And how do I get you to increase the level of permission over time and tell me more about yourself, actually? And then as I'm getting all this information, how do I personalize the service for you based on this information? Because if you make me fill in all these forms when I first sign up to your loyalty program, but you never actually use the information, then I'm also a bit pissed off, because I did tell you this at the beginning of the relationship and you missed out on this opportunity. If you're going to ask me again, what is my birthday, after I filled it in the first form, I'm going to feel like, aren't you listening to me? Why are you asking me for my birthday again? If when I signed up as a customer, that was one of the validated forms that I needed to fill in to show that I'm over 18 or whatever the case may be. So it's the way we use the data that's got to be very subtle. It's got to be permission orientated, and it's got to be a kind of strategy. You're like, don't do it haphazardly. Like, it's a relationship that you're building with a customer. That's why it's called relationship marketing. And make sure that you are looking after this relationship, and that you really not over communicating, allowing the customer to opt out at any particular point. And when you are communicating, it's like bite-sized, relevant information that adds value to the relationship and stuff. Don't communicate things that they already know about you. Don't try and sell to them again after they already bought from you, for example. I mean, they already bought the product. They formed an opinion now. Like, make it easy for them to do a repeat purchase, or remind them they're about to run out or something like that. But don't try and oversell again something that I've already sold to, I've already bought from you. So you got to be subtle in that way and be very permission marketing orientated.
Yeah, so I think that's a great insight, and I definitely want to get that book, right? So it's Permission Marketing by Seth Godin, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. And he wrote lots of books since, it was his first one that made him really famous. He was VP of Yahoo at the time, marketing, and really brilliant. But then he launched lots of other amazing books thereafter, Purple Car, All Marketers Are Liars, a lot of different books. But this was one of my favorites because it was, I think, his first, or maybe one of his early books. And it's really crystallizes this opportunity to have a great relationship with your customer, but you got to be very careful that you do it very subtly, when you go about it.
No, 100%. I think that's a huge insight just for me personally, because one of our core values is candor, but also I work in the realm of business strategy. And so there's so much that I want to share with people just around what it is that I know, but it's also like I also want to share about our business at the same time. And again, someone who can also talk very quickly, right? I have a habit of actually over communicating. So it's really, thank you. I'm going to do some thinking about that afterwards. But I just the final thing, I think the just to show that we fully tie the loop is now the cross-functional flow of information, right? This challenge that even though you might have it, there's still making sure that sales, marketing, operations are all talking to each other to really make a customer feel like no matter who I'm engaging with, I'm engaging with a brand that is attentive towards me as an individual, right? So I think that's you go from a complicated problem around how do we collect this information and use it in the first place to a very complex one around how is it that we can create this consistency across functions. What have you really learned in terms of doing that well that you'd like to share with the audience?
So everybody talks about a single view of the customer for that reason, So the single view and being able to represent a single view of the organization to the customer is also very important. So what customers don't enjoy, what annoys them is when you bounce them around the organization, So, they want you as the person who represent the organization, whether you're empowered or not, to be able to assist them because they called you and you're the first person that kind of like was the front line of that company, if you like. So it's how you empower that particular individual is also very important. So for example, we go to great lengths to ensure that when we do have a complaint, you make it easy for people to give us feedback about this complaint because we've got to validate it, test what went wrong in that particular process or whatever the case may be. And then we actually built an app for a lot of our clients to use internally that all the employees can choose. And then there's workflow built in. So if Cameron's the first person that needs to respond, you'll get an in-app notification, you'll log in, you'll say, okay, yes, this problem with this particular service at that time was that one of the staff didn't come to work and we were short-staffed and therefore there was a longer waiting time, and that comment might go to your manager, and then they'll decide, okay, well, this is what happened with the customer. They're complaining about waiting time, weirder stuff. You give the customer that feedback, and very quickly people within the organization can respond to the customer to be able to give this like first contact resolution as quickly as possible to the customer, so they don't need to be bounced around the organization. So that's giving the organization a single view to the customer. And then what's very important in order to understand the customer better is having a single view of the customer within the organization. So the customer paid late here, okay, and therefore he was disconnected. If it's a telco service, then he was reconnected at this stage. Maybe there was a problem that we need to find out about his payment method or fix it or whatever the case may be, and not try and sell to him while we're fixing this issue because that's going to be more annoying for him. So how do you store a single version of your customer within the organization, a single version of the truth. There's a single view of the customer. That's really important. And making that info accessible to everybody who's going to be dealing, liberating the data for everybody who deals with customers is also very important. So customers want to feel valued. They want to feel special. They want to be treated differently because they are different. And if we can tap into their real motivations and understand data and interact with them in a certain way that will enhance the relationship moving forward by using the data that we have around them to make life easy for them to do business with us, I think it's a winning combination. So we're going to make it easy for customers to do business with us, and think almost about what they would want to do next and help them do that, because they're not experts in insurance or they're not experts in telcos. So, customers really appreciate it when they get like a communication that says, you haven't used all the features of what you're available in your mobile package. We're going to let you carry it over to the next month, but maybe this is what you should be doing, and guiding them about the utilization of the service. Otherwise, they'll eventually cancel if they're not feeling that they're getting the value. So you gotta think about how you can be proactive with your customer experience. I think that's very, very important. And we tend to be more reactive than proactive. And I think that's where there's a missed opportunity often in business is actually being able to use your data and be a data-driven organization, as we discussed earlier.
Yeah, and I think the principle I like to walk away with there is it's how do you make the experience as convenient as possible for the customer, right? And that's because don't make me make a decision. Don't make me have to think hard about this. You're the expert. I've been a client of yours for however long, right? That should be the point there. And the nature of that is it means that there's a lot of complexity that you need to take on as a business in order to solve that, because where should the next touch point be for this customer? What is the context around why they're coming into that touch point? And what is it that you need to know about this customer in order to service them properly? It's a very complex way to run, but it's if you want to have an exceptional customer experience that's scalable, you need to be able to get that right from the get-go. And I guess just a personal share in terms of what we've done, and I think what Brett did really brilliantly, and what I was a bit nervous about in the beginning is that we've built just a couple documents, like 2 pages, right, that go along in our sales process whenever engaging with someone. So, for example, we'll start with a 30-minute curiosity call, obligation free. There's no strings attached. And what we realized is that people having this conversation with us, the founders, besides their money, they really value their time and attention. And so having an interaction with me and be like, oh yeah, I'm happy to have that curiosity call. As the week gets busy, it's why is this a priority for me? And so what we've done is it's literally just a document. What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario of having this call, right? That's obligation free, even though there's nothing here. And the reason why I used to be hesitant about that is because I don't want to be at all kind of manipulative or pushing this down in terms of this is what you're going to get from this. I'm trying to sell you harder. But actually the point of what we authentically did is how do we make it as easy as possible to just make a decision so you don't have to think about this, and then make a call whether or not it is that you want this. And we've seen that improve drastically, where people are very grateful when they enter that call with us. So yeah, I think just that principle of how is it that I can make your life more convenient? How do I meet you where you're at and give you what it is you need to know now in order to progress is part of it.
Absolutely.
So Yaron, I want to change gears now, right? So we've spoken a lot about how we as organizations need to change and adapt and evolve with customer feedback, as customers change, as markets change, competitors change. Talk to me about as an individual, right? As an entrepreneur, as a leader, right? Having been in business for 27 years with the DSG's first iteration in 1998, right? That how have you had to change and evolve throughout this time, going from founder of a small business all the way through to going to 1,200 to 1,500 employees in a span of a couple months?
Yeah, so I think when I started, obviously it was a lot of books like Business at the Speed of Thought from Bill Gates, and it was all about who's going to get to market faster. And it was crazy times. That whole .com hype, period was, you'll sleep when you're dead kind of thing, and put a lot of hours. There's a famous saying at DSG that one of my senior developers, Darren Britton, came up with. It says CEOs think that caffeine turns into code. And that describes the beginning of digital more. So it's whenever they used to say to me, it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say, no, I'll get you a case of Red Bull. We'll have to pull a few all-nighters. We've got to finish this thing because we've got this important release and all of that. And I think your whole life is consumed by work, and you work hard and play hard. And, every single office, we were discussing it the other day, used to have a bar, okay, and every Friday there was drinks, and it was work hard, play hard, and we were attracting that kind of talent as well, okay, when we started. And I guess through a personal journey, I was diagnosed with 3 types of cancer almost 4 years ago, in March 2021. So and through my own transformation of kind of going through understanding that my lifestyle is not sustainable anymore and I cannot continue at this pace, became more chilled. And actually my new business, as you know, is called Chill Drama-Free Eating, Chill Drama-Free Ice Cream, and Chill Drama-Free Living. So I kind of transitioned personally into, firstly, I'm very grateful to be around, because 3 different types of cancer at the same time, and the colon one and the kidney, and I lost my right kidney, was not easy, but I chose the healthy route of helping the body rebuild itself rather than dealing with external medication. So I decided not to do chemo and not to do radiation, and instead made a huge drastic change in my life and worked with my body to rebuild the autoimmune system, because cancer is a collapse of the autoimmune system. And literally by eating well, I created a rule that I don't want anything to go into my mouth unless it adds value to my system, focusing on what I eat and how I eat. And, like, for example, I won't eat past 6 p.m. because I want to get a proper rest when I'm sleeping, and I don't want to be digesting food while I'm sleeping. So, the way I've changed, no coffee after 4 p.m. from caffeine into curd, into 2 coffees a day, maybe never after 4 p.m. And just focusing on health and being more relaxed, and also understanding that things can be done in sometimes in a chilled way, and actually better. You don't have to constantly be that uptight about what's happening. It's easy to fall into a trap as an entrepreneur of overworking, because there's just so much information these days about everything. Being able to learn to switch off and creating balance. And I start my day these days with the first 2 hours being me time. I meditate, I then do exercise, I have a sauna, I make myself a really good breakfast. For the first 2 hours of the day, I don't do anything but have a bit of me time. And I find that my days have become much more productive because, I start really early. By the time I've done 2 hours of me time, I feel like great. Okay. So most people are having the first cup of coffee at 7 a.m. I've already, had my exercise, did my meditation, I feel amazing. And I get to be on top of my day. And then by being disciplined and stopping to work at a particular time, I find that I'm far more creative, because sometimes the work that you think you're doing because you don't want to do it tomorrow and you're going to get it done today, you're not doing it at the same level because your level of fatigue is so high, and you're not as concentrating. Your mind is not as focused as it was maybe early hours of the day. And I've learned how to kind of understand that I want to work I don't want to work for my business. I want my business to work for me, and I need to be able to, especially when you get a close call and you're not sure if you're going to make it, is how do you delegate work and empower other people to do some things that you were doing before that you thought you're the only person that you could do it. Okay, 'cause often that's the case, or do it the way you want it done. Okay, and you got to learn how to delegate more and how to work with other people and empower them, because especially if you want to scale your business, you're going to be able to build the blueprint that people can scale from, and rather than having to try and do everything yourself. So rather always look at the business of when we start businesses these days, we're always looking at businesses where, if we're going to get into this business and there's a subject matter expert that is looking for support, in that particular business and it's synergistic to what we're doing, we would look to invest in a business like that. So how we grew as a group into doing multifaceted kind of solutions is because there was a need in the market. We then found the right operator, if you like, or founder that we could back. And then we decided we're going to get into this business. This is how we want to go about it. We will back you to do it, build a business plan together around somebody, and then coach them and drive them to succeed. So DSG over the years has become more of a shared services group where we offer shared CFO, shared HR, shared marketing, strategy, funding, everything else that you require to make your business successful. So the entrepreneur in our business that runs Broadbrand can focus on running Broadbrand. They want to become a digital marketing expert offering marketing as a service, but they don't want to be bogged down with, having to manage, payroll and having to, do all the recruitment and then, having to have, chasing money. And often for entrepreneurs, that's what's difficult. And the beginning of your business, you can't scale because you're trying to do everything yourself and you're chasing funds from the same company that you want to upsell to. And you're one person, so it's very difficult because you can't have a bad cop, good cop kind of relationship that you can maybe when you have a shared finance. A lot of our CEOs often blame our CFO for being rigid, and wanting to collect as much as they want to collect, on time, that this is the finance kind of process. When you're an entrepreneur, often when you start, you don't have that kind of luxury. So we decided in DSG to offer that all the tools that will help an entrepreneur succeed are available as a shared service from DSG to its various group companies. So we have a business that focuses on customer experience, and we have a land and expand strategy that as we get somebody involved with us on the customer experience, but now they need help with marketing, that business will introduce another business within our group that can actually help that customer grow their marketing strategy. And then when we feel that they connect to a lot of suppliers and they have some issues around the security, we'll offer them a free security audit and then maybe look after the security. And then, if there's MVNOs is appropriate to their business, we might look at how they can participate with mobile and we bring mobile into their core business to create a new value proposition that's a brand extension or brand translation that helps you kind of grow that side of your business because it's synergistic, and we very softly introduce different aspects, but really we're quite unique in the fact that we can offer you an end-to-end customer experience across multiple technological channels and systems, all through one company. Not everybody uses everything that we do within DSG, but we start you on a path, and then if you choose to grow with us, then you grow with us. And some companies like Nando's that I mentioned earlier are using more and more of our services over the years rather than just the CX component, And some of our clients will start with MVNE and we'll start with the MVNO like DSTV, but then see, wow, we actually offer them great CX for the DSTV internet, and they decided to expand that to their core business, And that's how the relationship kind of grows. And today, the customer experience part of what we do for them is really, really important in our relationship. And we're growing that not just for South Africa, but for Africa. So, it's about, I guess, my advice to founders that want to scale is stay true to your vision, but find ways to raise the barrier to entry to compete with you. Okay. But make it easier for your customers to do business with you, and work with your things that you don't dislike in business. Okay. Make sure that you do something about them. They're there to remind you that you don't like doing certain things. So when I started out, it was always like, I need to get somebody to manage the finance. As much as I love numbers, I don't enjoy the day-to-day, the accounts, all of these kind of things, and then you kind of make sure that the way you do finance in your business is different to the way other people do finance. So for example, I want dashboards around performance, certain KPIs that relate to my business that I want to know. And for me to set up one of the businesses onboarding to our shared finance is that understanding what are the KPIs and how we measure those KPIs and creating dashboards that nobody ever has to send an Excel spreadsheet between, businesses, which a lot of businesses do, which is so difficult to track and manage. So often you got to also think about the things that you don't enjoy about your business and how you're going to build systems or processes to fix those issues to make you more efficient, because you need to be more efficient in order to be able to scale. if you're not going to get the efficiency, you're not going to be able to scale, because, it's always a chicken egg. It's like, I want to scale, but I don't have the resources. Sometimes you got to either raise capital and fund your growth, or decide to, invest in your growth, take a chance, and bootstrap until such times you can afford to maybe add the additional people and the additional systems that you may want to deploy.
No, 100%. Thank you for the journey that you took me through there. It was really the full story of like entrepreneurship, radical change in your life, shifting towards being healthier, but these principles around prioritizing me, right? And when I prioritize me, it's also this translation on you as a leader and the shift that you have in your culture. And it's really around like empowering other people to do what's healthiest for them. And that's really just this compounding effect that you've seen in terms of leadership in these past couple of years. I can imagine it's been quite a transformative journey. And Yaron, I think you're going to really love what MedEvolve's mission is, given what you've shared now. Our mission is to ensure that as many entrepreneurs as possible can take a holiday where they actually switch off whilst their business keeps growing. And
That's great.
And it's really that scaling points, and it's as you've highlighted, it's still this you can be this large business going around for a long period of time, but removing this dependency, freeing yourself up to do what it is that you want, building the systems, the dashboards like that you want to be seeing and running, empowers you to be the person that you want to be at the end of the day. And there's no one size fits all for that, but I think a huge couple insights that you've shared around that is still these lessons around customer centricity, getting customer feedback, empowering other leaders to be able to do so, giving them the functions and the resources to be able to succeed. And I think the beauty of why I love talking to people like you that have scaled and grown their businesses to this point, it's a very different form of leadership that when you've just got one business unit, right? It's like now you're at this, like, it's almost like a parenting level approach towards your strategy, where it's like, how can I empower you to be able to run and actually get out of your way? How can I fully trust you to be able to do that? And it's a very different approach. Requires quite a lot of evolution to get there. And I think it's been you have an amazing story, and it's just a pity that I don't have another 2 hours to get into more depth here.
For sure, but I mean, we can spend more time if you feel that there's more questions that you have. I know that we've got another 15 minutes or so, but if you've got anything specific around DSG that you'd like to know, or my personal journey. I mean, my personal journey has been a phenomenal. I'm going to land up, I'm sure, writing a book about it. I've got a blog right now called Love to Eat Something Great, and I wrote a little bit about my cancer journey. But it's been an amazing revelation, and the biggest thing for me, which I'd like to encourage other entrepreneurs to aim to do wherever they can in their business, is how do you take a breakdown and translate it into a breakthrough? How do you, when you're at the rock bottom,
how do you be anti-fragile?
Exactly. How when people say to you, you don't think you're going to make it beyond 3-4 months, how do you take that mindset, work with it, and say, okay, no, I want to be here much longer. I'm going to make changes in my life, bring discipline to ensure
that your prognosis 3-4 months?
Well, if I don't do chemo, and I decided not to do chemo. Yeah.
And you proved them wrong,
that's what the oncologist, I went to see him a year later, and I said to him, look, I'm feeling great. I've done all of these things. Don't you think it's great? And he said to me, I still think that with your family history, you should do chemo. And at that point, I decided I'm not going there anymore.
So how are your markers now?
Like a year later. I'm cancer-free now. I don't even go for tests. It's been almost 4 years. Thank you. Yeah, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with some of my team to celebrate 2 years, which was a great trip to do with my team as a team building. Not everybody obviously joined, but those who, yeah. So we did Kili. One of the other directors, our CTO, also had cancer. So he's also a cancer survivor. It's been magic. I must say that I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by amazing people in my life. And I think that's a big part of your success is in the way you engage with people, the talent that you employ, how you look after your talent, how you grow the talent within your business. Earlier, you spoke about scaling. Like, I realized that I needed to really invest in my top management team in order to be able to scale the business the way I wanted it to. So we decided that 6 of us will do MAP, which was, it's called Management Advancement Program at Wits Business School. And we'll write the assignments around our business, and that's where we're going to learn more about our business and going to be able to do it. And the guys got a lot of value out of it. One of my team members is the CEO of one of the largest companies within the group now, came number one in his class, and he felt it gave him a lot of confidence as he was growing, but he decided he could have gone to do his MBA straight afterwards and decided not to, that he got enough value and just focus on the business. But he's become a great operator. And sometimes you got to look at, maybe I don't have all the knowledge to grow the people around me. How can the industry support, the knowledge of my team around me? And how can I get more involved in the industry? So we've always supported industry organizations that added value to what we were doing in the space, So like in the customer experience space, there's Bepesa, it's funded by the DTI, there's KBPO, Content and Kartang, mobile marketing, we're a member of the Mobile Marketing Association, MMA, not mixed martial arts, but Mobile Marketing Association. And then the IAB, which is the Interactive Advertising Bureau, we are a member there. So, we like to contribute to the growth of the industry, the growth of our business, and the growth of our people, And I think if you focus on your people first and they're growing, then your business naturally is growing. And that, then you look at the industry, at one stage I was doing a lot of work promoting South Africa as a contact center destination. Today, South Africa is in the top 1 or 2 of the contact center destination. I think last year we won number 1 with India, and the year before number 1.
Congratulations.
So there's been a lot of support for industry things that needed to happen, as well. And I think, thank you. And I think that there's a great opportunity for businesses to, it's good to be focused on what you're doing, but it's also good to have a view of what's happening in the industry to make sure that you remain relevant, and how you can get involved in the industry and learn from your peers. And learn from other people and other businesses that are in that space. Yeah.
So Yaron, I've got 2 more questions that I want to ask properly, but I just want to take us back and ask a selflessly selfish question just around your experience with cancer, because my gran, she passed away at a very young age of 69 because of cancer. She got stage 4, tried chemo for a bit, and she was like, actually, I'm done. I'm taking this and going, which I think is very, I've got mixed emotions to that. I think it's very brave, but also miss her very dearly. And so there's this, I wish she'd kept fighting, but it's not my life to choose. And before I keep going down but I want to know, for people that don't know that there's another option, right? For people that don't know that there's the possibility of really just shifting your lifestyle, shifting what you consume, you can go from, having a 3-4 month prognosis of that's how long you've got to live to actually completely being cancer free in a couple of years. Is there somewhere that someone who's got cancer, someone who might have cancer as a family member can go to learn from your experience?
Yeah, so I mentioned my blog, Love Doing Something Great, that talks about some of my cancer journey. And I'm very happy to have discussions. I feel very grateful to just be around. So I decided to dedicate a big part of my life going forward to helping other cancer patients understand that there's other alternatives apart from just traditional medication. I'm not saying that chemo is wrong. I'm saying that, it depends whether you have stage 4, stage 2, or what kind of cancer you have. I can only share my own personal experience and say that I chose not to do chemo, and I chose to focus on cutting out sugar from my diet, because sugar is the worst thing for cancer. Cancer needs sugar to grow. Focus on a high oxygen environment. So I bought an oxygen chamber, which I make available now to a lot of other cancer patients that are wanting to use alternative support, either for their chemo or for just support for their system. A lot of great athletes use oxygen as a way of boosting the immune system and making them better. Like LeBron James is 40 years old, plays like a 19 years old. He's on the oxygen chamber 3 to 4 times a week. So I bought one and I make that available. There's other ways of understanding a high alkaline diets, and making sure your body's not acidic, because cancer thrives in an acidic environment. And it's a very long discussion, but there's a lot of great resources available out there.
Sorry, you're on. On that, I'm just conscious of the fact that this is not a podcast for medical advice, and even though I'm
Exactly.
registered with the HPCSA, this is definitely not my scope of practice. But just in terms of hearing your story, what's a URL someone that can go to? I want to put that in the description of the podcast, obviously along with your business details. But yeah, where can someone go to find this?
So there's a blog that's called An Attitude of Gratitude Means a Great Attitude, and that is on my LinkedIn profile. I'll send it to you. Okay.
Cool.
And that talks about my cancer journey, but the one after that talks about why being chilled is a superpower. Is also a must read. Okay. In fact, if you go to chill.mobi, okay, there's a lot of nice on www.chill.mobi, and our story. There's some great articles there about nutrition. There's some great articles there about um, radio interviews that I did talking about why nutrition is so important and how important it is to help the body protect itself, because we've actually destroyed nutrition over time, and nutrition has been, in the past, a lot of the medicine kind of disease that we have today never existed. And a lot of the medicine that we have today doesn't exist, And if I look back, I think we've destroyed the quality of our nutrition over time by adding additives, preservatives, colorants, insecticides, pesticides to the way we grow it. So we just added all these chemicals that at the end of the day, if you look at how much supplements everybody takes every single day, because they're not getting the nutrition that they used to get from food, and therefore they need to use supplements. So it's a long discussion around natural health and getting back to real nutrition. Our Powerfine at Chilled is nutritious and delicious. That's our food. But the emphasis is nutritious first. Okay. It's got to be nutritious, then delicious, and a lot of people think that healthy food can't be delicious, because it's not got no sugar and no milk. The ice cream can't taste good. When you taste our ice cream, it's incredible. We use agave, we use natural dates, honey and a halva ice cream. So it's all natural sugars that are actually good for you and are not bad for you. And I think that what it requires on the health front is consciousness. Like, read what you're eating. Like, turn the look at the ingredients. And if you think all these chemicals that are being put into your body was not built to take all these chemicals. Try and avoid those. That's like a rule of thumb that I would suggest for people to take the nutrition more seriously and be more disciplined about what they eat.
100%. Thanks for sharing that, Yaron.
Pleasure.
What is the future of Yaron Assabi and DSG look like?
Okay, so I'm having a lot of fun right now with DSG. We're at a great stage where we've been around for a very long time, and that we've got amazing customers as a result that we built relationships with, and we want to just grow those partnerships and become a very strong digital transformation enabler in Africa, Middle East, and Europe. And as I mentioned in the earlier part of the podcast, we were FTSE listed before. We are considering a FTSE listing as we expand more to the Middle East and Africa in order to fund the growth of the business, although the business is doing very, very well and is self-funding. We want to maybe accelerate the growth through an IPO. That's back on the cards. We're having some discussions.
That's another podcast episode right there.
Exactly. And then from a Chilled perspective, I'd like to go global with the brand. And that's obviously not part of DSG. That's my personal kind of passion. And I've got opportunities right now to take the brand to the US and Hawaii, a lot of different places where I think people really appreciate healthy food and nutrition. And I think Chilled has got an incredible opportunity. So I'm going to continue focusing on my digital group of companies and growing that with my team. And at the same time, my personal venture, which is Chilled, I want to see grow and more people becoming aware of what they eat, what they put on their body, how they live day to day and promote healthy living.
Sounds like a very exciting and fulfilling path you have ahead of you. Yaron, the final question that I have for you is, what's the one question that I haven't asked you that I should have asked you that you'd like to answer now?
Wow. I don't know, hey? Because I'm an open book, so there isn't such a question that you cannot ask me. And I would have answered all of them. I guess, as seeing that this is targeted as entrepreneurs, I think that every entrepreneur's got scars, they've got different times that are difficult, things that they couldn't believe actually happened, or I would like to encourage like all entrepreneurs to know that you wouldn't have got the vision to do it if you weren't meant to do it, and like often try and find the solution rather than give up. The worst thing you can do is give up, because you haven't really failed until you gave up, and I think that, if resilience has been a big part of my career, both from a personal health perspective and business. There's been lots of crazy times, lots of ups and downs, went for FTSE listing, .com hype, and then it was .com bomb, and share price lost a lot of value. I had to let go of a lot of staff at different phases of the business. Take those as key learnings. It's not a final verdict, As an entrepreneur, one of the things that we can do is get up in the morning and start it over again, and also don't get too comfortable at the same time, when you are successful, appreciate it, be grateful, and then constantly think on how to better yourself and how to improve and how to become better every single day, compete with the best version of yourself of yesterday, and try and be better every single day. I think those are the kind of two pieces of advice. It's a roller coaster ride. It's certainly not easy being in business. A lot of things can go wrong. It's all about your purpose, your intention, how you want to, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? That's the main thing.
Thank you for the reminder. And thank you for the inspiration, Yaron. I think your story is one. Thank you very much for being on the Founder Files. I can't wait to see, I guess, the next chapter. I know that you'll probably say you're still only getting started.
Yeah, we are. We've got lots of exciting new businesses that we have come up with. We're busy with a cybersecurity insurance business, which is fairly new. That keeps me really busy. Some really exciting stuff that we're doing in insurance in general, with some technologies. So I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about where DSG is going and where Chilled is going. And generally, I think that it's a very exciting time to be alive, actually, with all this technology innovation, all this amazing knowledge that we have at our fingertips. It's really exciting times. Yeah.
Totally agreed. Cheers, Yaron.
Excellent. Thanks. All the best. Cheers. Bye.
What an inspirational journey. And knowing someone that's been through such significant change, to be someone coming out the other side that's so healthy, so passionate, so energetic is really inspiring to me. But I really want to send an invitation to you now as a listener, is that if what we spoke about specifically towards the end resonates with you, and you want to free yourself up to be the leader that you want to be, to pursue the vision that you have, and to really take care of your own time, to be able to have those 2-hour morning routines, to be able to empower other people, to go Kilimanjaro and as a team building exercise, you really need to free yourself up from the operations of your business and from the details. And we directly help you do that. We help you download all the knowledge and thinking out of your head and into your management team, so that they can focus on execution, so you can be freed up to focus on growth, innovation, or climbing Kilimanjaro if you want to. All right, so if you want to find out how we do that, as I also actually mentioned, a 30-minute curiosity call, right? If you're curious, find out more from me, follow the link in the description. We'll have a chat. You'll find out also what the best and the worst case scenarios of having that. Really is obligation free. We'd love to figure out how I can help you. This is our vision, our mission, and we want to see you succeed as well. So I hope to hear from you, and thank you again for listening to another episode of the Founder Files. I will see you next time. Cheers for now.